weather, cast, intriguing and informative guests, and you get one of the most listened to Saturday morning streaming media political talk shows going today. And it's all right here on our flagship station, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. So join me, the Feds, for Inside the Eye Live every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern. It is truly intelligent media for the politically aware.
Welcome to Sacred Matrix, a divine paradigm of love and universal consciousness, with your host, Janet Kira Lessin and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Together, we transform the world.
And now, here are your hosts, Janet Kira and Dr. Sasha Lessin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I'm your host, Janet Kira Lessin, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lessin. And on today's show, we have Ralph and Marsha-ring. And I'm trying to get my computer to cooperate so I can read their bio. Of course, it's not working. So, I'm going to have Ralph and Marsha tell us a little bit about themselves, because my computer's just stuck right now. Oh, well, stuff happens. But before we bring on Ralph and Marsha, I know that Ralph is involved with some interesting technologies. He was in the Army, and he's going to tell us about his research that he did many years ago and what happened. Dr. Lessin, would you like to say something before we bring on Ralph and Marsha?
Ralph is a pioneer in bringing out and documenting anti-gravity vehicles in transportation, and he's demonstrated it, and finally the world is catching up with you, Ralph, so we'd love to hear your story and how it came down.
So welcome to our show, Ralph and Marsha.
Okay.
What would you like to tell our listeners about yourself?
All right. Thank you very much for the invitation. And we're here. I'm Ralph. This is Marsha.
Hi there, everybody. And we're very happy to be on your show this evening. Thank you.
And we have a guest.
I'm so delighted.
We have a guest here listening with us. Her name is Betty Gates. She's an angel here in Paradise. She takes care of everybody up here, and we just happened to be going to a memorial today, and we asked her if she'd like to come along, and she said yes, so we're very happy she's here. So,
oh, wonderful. Yeah. What was her name again? Betty?
Betty Gates.
Betty Gates. Okay. Well, she's welcome to the show if she wants to share something.
Okay.
So where would you like to start?
Well, I think maybe that I'll pass the ball to you, because I don't know what, we've been busy on all levels. We've gone into, the raising the awareness, raising the consciousness up quite a bit. And now we're into the how to ascend, how to get to, how to get out of this seemingly desolate place. And so we've been talking about ascension and how easy it is when you go inside for your information instead of outside. So,
well, wonderful. Would you like to begin with that, or do you want to start with some of, I don't think that our listeners know who you are. Do you want to give them a little bit of a 3D reality to begin with of who you are, what began your walk in this world, and how you got to this incredible information on ascension? So I guess kind of start with what led you to this? Yes.
Well, me, like everybody else, have been curious about, things, and when they don't feel right, I want to know why, because like something doesn't gel, it just doesn't set well with me. I sometimes can't get some sleep because I have to find out what's going on. So anyway, I've always been curious. I was raised in the woods up here. We live in the Northern California. It's a place called Paradise. It's up above Chico, California. And I was raised up there as a kid, and we walked 7 miles round trip to school in the woods. So most of my knowledge about life came from nature herself. We'd stop and talk to the animals and play with the grasshoppers and the deer and stuff on the way to and from school. And when I eventually left here and went out into the big world, I found that everything seemed to be backwards because it didn't adhere to what was known to me as natural law. The laws that pertain to living on planet Earth seemed to be very bizarre and limited and very restrictive, to say the least. So I had a rough time trying to figure out what to do about this, and I decided to just keep investigating it. And I did. I kept looking into things. I eventually went into the service, went to Korea, got wounded a few times over there, and I came back. But they had me in the infantry, and I had put in for engineering, but they kept me in the infantry. And when I got back, and my academic training went to the 8th grade up here. I graduated from the 8th grade here in Paradise, California, and didn't get much further than that. So I put in all my savings from my paycheck in Korea to go back to engineering school. Well, when I got back, I didn't have the savings. I don't know what happened to it. They mixed up the records or something, and so I didn't have much to count on, except my diving experience that I experienced on Guam. Before I got to Korea, I was on Guam, and so because I looked in the book and they didn't want an infantryman or a machine gunner or any of the stuff that was familiar in the infantry. So I just ran an ad as a skin diver and a scuba diver. And started a business. And overnight, it was quite successful. I worked the coast up and down, and everything went quite well. But intuitively, I was still searching for more and more answers that weren't making any sense on the outside world. So, and I had learned what's now called meditation when I was a kid, just to sit and think about it and talk to the animals about it, and you'll eventually get your answers. But out in the external world, it doesn't seem to be that way. You have to go to academia, get a reference library, and one thing leads to another, and then they tell you, well, that's obsolete. You got to get this and that. And so I just kind of decided not to go that way. So I met a girl, and we got married, and we had a family, had 2 children, and I continued my diving. I worked eventually with U.S. divers, which was Jacques Cousteau's invention of the aqualung in Santa Ana. I worked as a technician, as a research and development diver, and I had to go out on the ocean for sometimes long periods of time, and my wife and kids got lonely, and they said, no, we would really like you closer to home. And my wife found an ad in the paper for a lab tech for a company called Advanced Kinetics in Costa Mesa, California. They needed a lab tech, and I told her, well, I've done some machine work and I've done this and that, but I don't know. But she pointed out I had hundreds of experiments going on in the house. I had everything running on alternative energies. I had little remote controls to operate this and that. And she said, well, just take this in and show them and see if they'll give you a job. And well, I did. I'm trying to make this as short as possible so I can get into the stuff that I think you might be interested in. So
That sounds great. Keep going.
Okay. Well, I went down and I got a job there in at Advanced Kinetics and working with magnetics, which is my favorite subject when I was a kid and growing up, and still is now today. And I found what they put me on, the job they put me on was going backwards. They were using force to try and force an electron through a magnetic field. Just getting one electron through the field was their goal. And I found after weeks working there that it was crazy, because you're never going to force nature to do something that isn't natural. So and I already knew the answer. I knew I could duplicate their experiment using natural law and be successful. So one day I just decided to go home and set up my own experiment. And while I was doing it, on the next bench over, they were working on levitation. So I said, well, I'll work on that one too, because they were using a steel coil and levitating a stainless steel ball for about 3 or 4 minutes and burning the coils up. Now, both of these experiments that we were working on were in the tens of thousands of dollars a day. I mean, that's what they were charging the government to do this research. And I saw all these thousands of dollars going nowhere and getting nowhere, because we just wasn't accomplishing anything. So I went home, tore apart a television set, got out a cathode ray tube, which in those days was a way to see television, and got the magnets out and set up the experiment on my living room floor. And the only difference I did from what they did was I didn't force the little electron through. I just said, well, what do you want to do? And it said, well, I was talking electrons in those days. I still do. But
I love it.
It said, give me a breath. Let me breathe. And that's what they weren't doing. They were forcing this with full force to try and get it to go through the field. And all I did was pulse a signal by a nano, or by a millisecond or two. And when I did, the electron started into spiraling and went through the field without deflection the first time and 20 times afterwards. So I wrote it up, photographed it, and said, that's it, we're going to get a raise. I figured I'd take that into the Institute. So while I was at it, I was working on the levitation, so I took the same television, I tore the speaker out of it and put it on my living room floor, and I had just bought an audio amplifier at a garage sale somewhere and hooked it up to the speaker so I could regulate the volume and the frequencies and the vibrations to the cone. So I did that, and I started with different things to try and achieve levitation. The only thing that really worked was a ping pong ball. I got a ping pong ball to levitate, and it was late, and I went to bed, and when I woke up in the morning, it was still levitating. So I said, well, it's acoustical, but at least that's levitation, that they're burning up thousands of dollars a day. Let's take this idea and see what we can do with it. So I wrote that up, took pictures of it, took it into Dr. Weinhardt. He was the head of the Institute. And when he saw it, and he held his phone calls and asked me to close the door, he saw it, he said, yeah, I see what you're doing. That's very good, but I didn't think you'd ever do that. And you're operating on natural law principles. And I have to tell you something. This is a government-funded research and development laboratory, and we're paid here to look for answers, not find them. That was
oh my gosh!
Amazing.
That explained the whole thing to me. That's why I couldn't do anything there that was worthwhile, because they didn't want me to. So that was the end of that job. I had to get out of there. And so, long story short, I talked to a friend of mine that was going to meetings every week. The meetings were called Understanding. The group was called Understanding, created by a fellow by the name of Daniel Fry. And they had a lot of different people from different walks of life that were not in sync with the external world, the way they were doing things externally. They all either meditated or exercised or somehow found other ways to get their information than academia. And he said, well, come on to the meeting and tell us what you want to do. And I said, well, I'd like to see, our homes off the ground, take the tire off the vertical. It's ruining the gardens and the putting cement and asphalt down. Take that tire and turn it in a horizontal position, and which is simple. Levitation is a very, very simple principle in nature. Nature does it every day with storm clouds. She holds billions and billions of tons of water, and then at the right time she lets it go. But that's natural levitation, and it can be understood and used in a vehicle. So I like to see floating homes and floating cities and floating everything, floating countries. Why not?
Mm-hmm.
And they said, well, that's a good idea, but coincidentally, we're in touch with a guy. His name is Otis Carr. He's in North Dakota trying to do the same thing, and he calls them spaceships. And I said, well, that's spaceships. That sounds good. And he said, well, we talked quite a bit more about it. And he said, well, he was in trouble because people thought he was bizarre and crazy and trying to extort funds for an idea that didn't work and so forth. But he was in trouble getting any development. This was in Norman, Oklahoma. Originally he put in a patent for a spaceship, and in the original patent he had levitation and teleportation in the patent. And the patent office said, no, that doesn't even apply to our laws of physics. You can't put those in the patent. And he said, well, I've got, I can produce a prototype, a working prototype. I said, no, just forget it. It's not in our system at all. So just, if you want to take those ideas out, resonance and frequencies and sympathetic vibrations and all that, what they call nonsense out, we'll give you a patent on an amusement device, which they did. And he got another patent for an amusement device, which he put up in Oklahoma, only to advance the interest in spaceships and continue on with his research. Well, anyway, he got in trouble, and so they called him. The understanding group called him, and they told him about my interest and what I was doing. Minor successful experiences myself, mainly in my own laboratory, which was the living room floor most of the time, but they were successful. So they called him and asked if he'd like to come to California. The group funded him, him and his entourage. He had about 8 people, a couple of engineers, a physicist, PR man, and I don't know, there's about 8 or 10 of us. I think it was 8. And I invited him out to California. So he took him up on the idea and brought him and his whole entourage out. And they put us up, all of us, him and me included, up at Lake Arrowhead so we could discuss procedures. And I got up there and I got to know who this guy Carr was. He was a protege originally of Tesla, a New Yorker motel as a clerk while I was going to school, while he was studying, and got acquainted with Tesla. And Tesla was telling him all about the alternatives of nature, that if we keep going on the way that they were headed, we'd wind up destroying ourselves. We'd go into extinction. So Carr was like a sponge, and he picked up on all the information. And Tesla said, well, I'll teach you. I'll show you the way if you want to carry on, because he got stopped by J.C. Morgan with his Wardenclyffe experiment. He got it just about ready to transfer electrical impulses and vibrations and electricity itself through the air without any wires or telephone poles. And as soon as Morgan heard about that, he said, well, there's no money in that, so we're going to have to scrap your project. So they tore down Warden.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a money game, And so he said, well, you take it, go on in your time, and tell them that free energy has always been free. It's never been. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to. If you're using the right principles at the right time to work with nature, not against her. The same thing I did with the electron. You got free energy forever. There's no magnetism is free and abundant. We breathe it, we eat it, everything's held together with magnetism. And you can fuel a vehicle with magnetic power and go forever. You never have to stop because the magnetic energy that you're using is a part of the vehicle itself. It's amazing. But anyhow, they didn't. Morgan didn't want to buy any of this, so he shut him down. And so he told Carr, if you want to carry on with this, go for it, but they'll probably shut you down a half a dozen times or more in your struggle. And if that doesn't work, keep going. Because someday the right buttons are going to have to be pressed and people are going to see it's too close to the edge of extinction and they're going to want a change. They're going to want to see what's in the ethers waiting for them. So long story short, they brought Carr out. I got to know this guy. I just loved him right from the start. We were, talking in language that we didn't even understand. It was amazing. But anyway, they put us together. They got us a laboratory. They got us a whole warehouse down in Hesperia, Apple Valley, California, which is next to Victorville. And we started to proceed to build alternative devices, little devices that could be operated in the home or larger devices, which was my forte. I wanted to see the spaceship, so we were working on spaceships. And eventually we got prototypes up and working. We got them ready. We all out of pocket. I mean, we had a lot of offers from people that were curious about what we were doing, but all of them wanted to put us into a corporate structure. And we had to remain sovereign because what we were working with and advocating was free energy. So we had to remain free ourselves. So a lot of the funding came out of our own pockets and our own timing. I was a volunteer. Everybody was a volunteer. And to supplement everything, I was a machinist as a kid for a while, and so I operated some of the equipment. And then when we got hungry, I'd run to I don't think there was a Burger King there. It must have been maybe a McDonald's. I'd go get hamburgers for the crew, and then we'd sit around and wrap. But we were progressing, and we had our little prototypes up to a point where we realized we were ready to introduce and present to a manufacturer our product so that they could take it from there and go into production. We just wanted to see what we had, and it was free to the people, and we wanted to keep it as free as we could. And so, Marcia, come in here for. I'm choking. I gotta have a drink of water. Hang on.
Okay, Marsha.
Hi there.
Hi, Marsha.
Ralph's story is always so exciting every time I hear it. I was actually holding spiritual meetings in Prescott in Arizona in 1980, and Ralph was invited to come and speak, Ralph and his lady, and that's when I actually met Ralph and heard his story. My mom and dad happened to be visiting from Barstow, California. That's where I went to high school, and that's about 30 miles from Hesperia. And my mother remembered seeing the article in the paper about the flying saucers in Apple Valley. So with that, I never doubted his story at all because my mom confirmed it right off. But let me give you back to Ralph and let him finish his story with Otis Carr, that it is such an important part of this whole thing.
Right.
Then we'll bring you up to the present time and what's happening now, and what we expect to happen. Well, it is happening right now. So anyway, our PR man, which was his name was Major Wayne Aho, and he was an intelligence officer in the military dealing with UFOs. And he said that the government wasn't revealing any of the information that he knew was true. They were in touch with intelligence and UFOs for years before the public knew anything, and they still are kept in the dark about all this stuff. So he quit and joined us. He became our PR man, and he said, "Well, I'm going to call General." Can you hear me okay?
There's a little bit of background noise. I'm not sure where that's coming from, but I can hear you, yes.
Okay, well, that's good. So
contacted General Motors.
Yeah, so he said, so we contacted General Motors, and we said, we want to have a rep come out and talk to us. We've got a project, an idea that we think will advance progress in the way of transportation and habitation. Oh, they dropped off. Oh, Janet?
Just keep talking.
Okay, is anybody still there?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can hear you.
we're here.
Okay, everybody?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Well, anyway, so we got a hold of General Motors. They sent a rep out. We met in Riverside, California, and we took our little prototype along. Carr did. He put it in a little valise, and we went and told our story. We told them that fossil fuels were not acceptable in the planet for health reasons, for 100 different reasons, and that we had successfully been working with magnetics for years now, and found them with the use of them to accelerate us eons into the future, because you don't have to use or even work hard for any fuel for any reason. And so I'm getting ahead of myself. We met with the rep. He had a couple of engineers. He had a physicist there, and we sat down. And Carr explained. He said, "Well, what we want to do is take the tires off the ground and put them in the air and horizontally and create homes, and then eventually cities and so forth. And the principles involved are very simple. And we've always been curious why they haven't been in full use, because they've been known for thousands of years on the planet, that they're actually antiquated information as far as levitation and things go. But anyway, he was a little reluctant, because he said, "Well, what do you mean free energy?" He didn't understand the term, and we explained it to him that everything is free, but because we feel we have to interfere, we have to put meters on things and buy and sell all kinds of energy to people, and it's really not necessary. You can use what's natural all around us, which is magnetism. And so as we talked, he said, "Well, wait a minute. You guys are talking about no wires, no telephone poles, the same thing as Morgan pulled up. But wait a minute. If you get these things working, and you say no maintenance. That's no maintenance, not low maintenance, but no maintenance on these craft that you're building. No maintenance at all. They all take care of themselves. And they're what would be called a computer, although it was far advanced to what we know as a computer now. The techniques that we were using we were synergizing with consciousness, and that's the story that I'll be getting into in a few minutes. Anyway, he said, "Well, wait a minute. We have hundreds of thousands of people on our payroll, and you're going to have everybody stop taking their paychecks home, and the kids going to school, and you're going to disrupt the whole way of life." And Carr said, "Well, no, we're just going to slowly change it. With your help, we can slowly integrate." Some more of that. we just want to slowly interface with the life that's here. We're not going to change it overnight, but there's a good chance it will get that way. It'll accelerate. But, and he said, well,
it kind of made him angry.
Yeah, it made him very angry, and he called us outlaws. He said, well, you can't do that. And Carr explained that we'll be giving people a new way of life. Instead of doing a job they don't like, going in and punching a time clock from 9 to 5 or whatever, they could expediently go into doing what felt good and looked good and tasted, and everything they did would be beneficial to them in their health. And you wouldn't have to worry about, your 9 to 5 job. Later on, and this is in progress today, Google has accepted this principle, and it's in effect with Google. They allow their people to be more free in their working space and their working hours and their way they would like to work. They have gymnasiums and their facilities. They have
nurseries where the employees can actually bring their children or their pets to work.
And this is for and it's quite simple. You treat people with love and respect, and you're going to get it back tenfold. And that's how Google has accelerated through the roof they are top of the line now.
But anyway, you're back you're back with General Motors.
So while we were talking, Carr opened his valise because we talked for almost an hour before he did this, because we knew we'd shock him when this would come out, because this was before the days of remote. Even television remotes weren't popular then. But he just opened his valise, and we had a little prototype, a little 12-inch prototype that came out of the valise and started levitating. It came over the top of the desk, and the engineers everybody was astonished. They couldn't believe what was happening. And they said, well, they must have some kind of remote. Would you guys remove your jackets? And they scanned us for wiring and everything else, while this little guy was... So, and in fact, you could equate it nowadays with a movie called Batteries Not Included. I don't know if you've ever seen that movie, but I think it was a Disney production. But anyway, this little guy was running around on top of the desk and everything, and then we got it down so the engineers could take a look at it. We had a Lexan top so they could look in through the cover. And the first thing I heard from an engineer was, where was the ignition switch? Which is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Here's this thing levitating and running around on top of the table, asking for an ignition switch. And the next guy said, well, where's the steering wheel? And so these questions showed us where we were at. Like, oh my God, we've got a lot of catch up to do for these guys to even understand the principles involved here.
And don't forget, it was in 1959 or early 1960 that this happened. So we weren't as open. People were not as open to thinking this could even be a possibility.
Yeah.
And that's why we were blowing their minds.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm omitting a lot of the stuff because I want to get on to some more things that are going on now. But anyway, that's what happened. They called us outlaws. They said, you guys are breaking the law, and you're beyond our laws of physics, and you can't go there. We were doing it, but you can't go there. And so the last thing we heard from them was, Mr. Carr, if you put those things up, we're going to shoot you down. That's the last words that we had from General Motors when we were trying to get a manufacturer to help us. So we left and went back to the pod, and Carr said, well, we don't have much time now. We're going to have to we had one fully operational 45-foot craft in the test stages, and the other one wasn't completed yet. But he said, we're going to have to get this one ready to go because we've blown our cover. This guy is probably going to turn us in for whatever reason, and we'll have to get the 45-foot craft up and running and go over every city in the world as fast as possible, and just bells and whistles, get people to notice that there's something different going on that they don't understand and they're not being told about. And when that happens, maybe, just maybe, it'll get to the powers necessary to make a change in things and invite us to show what we've got without shutting us down. Well, I was fortunate enough, and I was just a lab tech, and there were some brilliant engineers working there, and the Carr chose me as one of the occupants to our test flight, our test operation, and there was just 2 engineers and myself. And the reason I went along is because I guess I got into Carr's head more than anyone else, and we understood the principles of what's now known as ether technology. That means things that are in the invisible world. We live in 2 worlds. We live in a visible one. We also live in an invisible one. And the invisible one is nature. It's the laws of nature operating. And him and I could explore and investigate principles that are not even heard of to this day in the ethers, as we the term that we use. So, and all our technology was developed on ether technology, natural law, which means we accelerate through the 3rd dimensional linear projections of doing things, the ways and means of doing things, to a multi-sensory or multi-dimensional understanding where nothing is impossible. Everything is possible, just depending on the ways and means you have of accomplishing it. And so we were living in an unlimited state of mind most of the time while we were building the craft. Well, so I was chosen to go on board with a... Can you talk again? I got the rest of a minute.
One thing that is very important at this time, Otis Carr actually told his group of his entourage, he actually told them that he had written a book on poetry and prose, and that when this book was actually...
Thank you for bringing that up.
When it was actually decoded at a later time, that everything, all of the information of how to build your own spaceship and how to actually teleport was in this book. And the book is Dimensions of Mystery.
It's on our website, by the way. The website's
okay.
www.
What's your website?
www.bluestar, all one word, Blue Star Enterprise, all one word, .com. BlueStarEnterprise.com. And if you go to the Get Started menu and pull it down, you'll find the Dimensions of Mystery in the original manuscript, the way it was written, and the decoded one. We've had one of our beloved engineers in Australia spent over 3 years decoding it into to the ether technology necessary to operate these craft.
And he's also actually done a prototype on the craft with doing that. He's worked a very long time, and so he's one of the top. He actually has the prototype levitating, you know.
Yeah,
right?
well, it shows his up to a point. It shows what he's doing on the website. We're still operating in the margin beyond. We've learned not to beg, or not to tease, or not to invite any kind of controversy as far as the general public goes, because as soon as we do, our computers are hacked or we're shut down. We've been shut down. Me personally, I've been shut down about 7 or 8 big labs and about 20 small labs since I've been operating. Just nonsensical things. They come in and I wasn't up to the building code, so they had me change this and had me change that, and they keep me busy doing other things while a lot of them would confiscate our equipment. But
go back to you're in the lab and you're ready to teleport. You're ready to
okay. Well, no, you brought up Blue Star Enterprise.
Yeah. So they chose the three of you, and you were the guy that was representing Carr because you were most in tune to it.
What was that now? There was three of us.
I said you got in the story to where you and two other guys were going up, and Carr chose you because he felt like you understood more better.
Yeah, well, I was pretty close to Carr.
In consciousness and understanding, yes.
Yeah, and because the craft itself is not a singular third-dimensional object. It is a synergetic object that has to work with consciousness. It doesn't work.
Right.
We all have consciousness, but we just haven't used it in an expanded way. We've been kept in a little box and using only 5 senses to operate, and that doesn't get us anywhere but 5 senses in return. And we can't get anywhere. But the way we were operating was multi-sensory and multi-dimensional. So that it simply means. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Does it leave any detritus as it goes forth in motion? Is there anything that's left behind or pushed behind by a movement?
Pushed behind? No. There's no motion. There's no linear motion as we know it. It doesn't.
So no trail.
There's no trail. No, there's no atmosphere. We don't deal in the atmosphere in the original concept. The prototypes that we had around Apple Valley and Hesperia, some of them they could operate in a 3-dimensional plane. And they had coronas around them. They could be seen, and they would have a trail through the air. But the craft. Excuse me. Go ahead. Hello.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Keep going.
Thank you.
Well, the technology is different. It's totally different. It's diametrically opposed to the technology we're using. Because it deals with consciousness. It deals with who and what we really are. We're energy beings. We're not flesh and blood beings. I mean, we think we are, and we create it in nanoseconds. We create everything. There's nothing here really exists except as an illusion to us, because we're fine-tuned to a box that broadcasts like a television set, 3D all the time, and that's all the computer, which we call the brain, operates. It's not interested in anything beyond its jurisdiction, so it keeps confined to the third dimension. But anyway, getting back to where we were, if you go on the website, you can download. I believe all 4 copies are there. There's 4 pages of information. It shows you the old dimensions of mystery, which were written in beautiful poetry and prose, and how hummingbirds at 3 o'clock in the afternoon reflect the sun on the leaf at a certain point. And all these have bearing on the strategy and techniques of building things that will operate multidimensionally, multi-sensory. So anyway, Carr said, "No, I want you to go along." So I was chosen. I felt very humbled, but I felt great. And the only instructions we had, he said, because we didn't have. Remember, this was in the 50s. We didn't have cell phones. We didn't even have. Well, we had ham radios, but we didn't have them. But he just said, "No, all you guys. All I want you to do is clear your brains, clear your thought patterns. That means discipline. Using a form of discipline, but not a lot." Not disallowing thoughts to come. Just don't acknowledge them. Just let them go through. Because if you try to stop thoughts, pressure creates resistance, so you're not going to get anywhere. So just let the thoughts go through, but don't grab onto any of them. it's all what he called illusion. It's all synthetic or artificially produced by the brain. And so he said, all I want you to do is meditate. Just go in. We had a crystal in the center of the craft, beautiful faceted crystal, and well, I'm tired. It was operated by a laser. Would come up from the bottom and illuminate the crystal. And on one of the, I think on one of the tapes, there's some discs. There's some programs you can download from the website that shows the principles graphically explained on one of the tapes of how the crystal operates. But for the now, I'll just explain it. The crystal illuminated. It went into millions of colors. I mean, from infrared to ultraviolet. I could have just looked at the different shades of red for two years and never found the end of it. But then it eventually went to the color of aquamarine. It's a very, very beautiful color. It lit up the entire interior of the craft. And Carr had told us that just 2 days before, the engineers had gone down range about 10 miles and probed the area electronically to find out the vibratory rate of the area. And electronically, it equated to the color spectrum or the light spectrum of aquamarine. So he said that's going to be our destination. So it was quite simple. He said once the craft reaches the resonant frequency of the aquamarine, which is down range 10 miles, you'll be here and then there instantly. And then when you're there, just don't. Well, he said, well, don't think. Just meditate and observe the light. Well, what happened? Eventually, I got to take another little breather.
Sure.
Okay. Let me go ahead. I've heard the story. Well, I was not there, but they actually teleported down 10 miles down range, but the only thing that they heard, they did not know that they had teleported anywhere. The next thing they heard after they went into the meditative state was Carr telling them to come down for debriefing. And Ralph and the other engineers looked at each other and they said, we didn't do anything. It failed.
Okay.
Go ahead. That's such an exciting part of the story, I think.
Yeah. I usually have a question and answer with Spirit so I can breathe in between. I'm trying to get it all in.
Okay, we can ask you some questions.
Well, yeah, this is in my studies of ancient sites that people would particularly go for just the hours before dawn when the telluric waves were the most perturbated, just before the sun came up. I wonder, is that part of your principles too, or is that just another whole trip?
The dawn and the sunsets are very special times for energetic energy, for dealing with things outside the consciousness of just being a human being and being an immortal, unlimited being. I gotta put it that way. I don't know how else to put it. It's a very, special time. So yeah, and there are waves there that are operating that are very, very. There's an inner an exchange in wavelengths between the light and the dark that are very, very important. But we didn't. At that time, we weren't. That wasn't in our way of doing things at that time. Although I've learned since then a lot more. But what happened when the crystal lit up the ship and it was in the aquamarine, it was vibrating then. The sympathetic vibration is the same one that was downrange 10 miles. It was resonating at the same frequency. So we went there, and we were gone just a few. I think it was just a minute or two from the launch pad where we were at the base. But downrange, we were there about 15 minutes. Apparently, that's what was gauged out. And I didn't remember then any of this. In fact, I denied it happening. And he said, well, that's your brain. The brain's going to tell you nothing outside of 3D exists. So it'll always try to tell you that you didn't experience it. It was your imagination, and it was this and that. And then Carr and I had gone into what imagination is. Imaging is the greatest power we have. Everything in existence had to be imaged at one time or another. So imagination is a very firm and vital power. And so the brain can't get away with telling you that, like they did when I was a kid in school, they say don't use your imagination. Let me think here. So anyway,
when you went down for debriefing?
Yeah, well.
So let me just ask something here. I've heard from another whistleblower type person that one of the main reasons they're interested in human beings is that we have incredibly vivid imaginations, and many of the species in the continuum have lost that ability to imagine, to have the imagination. Have you found any correlations with that with your research?
Well, if we keep going, we're vastly losing our imagination, because we're told it doesn't exist except in fantasies and fiction and so forth. But that's the greatest power we have, and that's how we know who and what we are. We use our imaging long enough, progressively enough to make it a reality. And that's exactly how everything we have here, this coffee cup and the televisions, came into being, because at one time we had to focus on it. And Carr told me and passed it on from Tesla that that's how he operated. He had to put things together in his mind first. Then he knew everything that was to be done before it even hit the paper. He wouldn't even have to put out plans. He just knew how to put it together, because it was simply done in his mind, with his imagination, and with the help of the open-mindedness to tune into the collective consciousness, which means all of us in the multiverse. We can tap into each other's domains by invitation or by request, and get information that puts things together. But you do it in your mind first, and then you go out and just, it simply comes together. There's no hard work to it.
Ralph, I guess I wonder first how it happened for you, and how it could happen for everybody. How did you at first thought that you hadn't gone anywhere, and they somehow convinced you that you had? How did they do that? How can we get the world to be convinced that this is possible? But first, how did you get convinced? Okay.
Thank you for bringing me back to that. When we got back, figuratively speaking, Carr said, "Come on down for debriefing. I want to talk to you." And I looked at the other guys, and I said, "We didn't go anywhere. I guess it didn't work. Let's go down and see what he has to say about it." So we went down, and Carr had explained before we went. We had some briefings before we even went up. He said, "Well, now you're limited in your idea. You're creating your idea of being human. That's your own creation. We're all creating that idea. It's just created out of energy, the same way we create anything else. But your brain," what's he was using this terminology, and I suppose you could use any metaphor to explain it, is a computer that it's like a box that operates a third dimension only, and your body operates in the third dimension. And this, as Carr explained it to me at one time, it was like Earth was supposed to be just a classroom, a schoolroom, where you go down and you learn all of about life from your experiences, and that it was to be experienced from the heart, from your intuition, from your soul, if you will, and not from your brain, because your brain, because you operate a body, is only interested in operating the body and that third dimensional existence. So you have to work from your inner resources to really experience and have a good time going through class, instead of the annoyance of your thoughts telling you that's bad, that's wrong, that's up, that's down, which will drive you crazy. And none of that is true. It's because we don't. Great.
Oh, it's the top of the hour. Okay, everybody, thank you for listening. We'll be back in 5 minutes. We'll go start out the market after the break.
Join Revolution Radio every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Studio B for Momentary Zen with host Zen Garcia at freedomslips.com, the People Station.
The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sacred Matrix on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and I am your host, Janet Kier Lesson, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lesson, and we are interviewing Ralph and Marsha-Ring. But before we get back to our very special show, I want to remind everybody that Revolution Radio is listener-supported. So please do take a few minutes and go over to our website and go to the donation button and donate whatever you can, please. Your donations are greatly appreciated. $1, $5, $15, $20, whatever you can afford is greatly appreciated. And we do thank you very much for your donations, because your donations keep us on the air and allows us to bring shows like ours. So thank you once again. All right, let's see if we got everybody back here. Dr. Lesson, are you there? Righty. Ralph and Marsha, are you there?
We're here.
We're here.
Okay. I will go check on Dr. Lesson. Would you like to continue where we left off? Where did we leave off at the break?
Well, I think it was a cliffhanger, because they wanted to know, how I went through that state of dementia, or whatever you want to call it. And so
okay.
That's where we were. We were called down for a debriefing, and we were about to tell what that was all about.
Okay.
Did you want Sasha back online so you could hear that, or?
Yeah, I was going to. I have to set down the phone down because it gets feedback. So go ahead and say something. Just give me 2 minutes here, and I'm going to see if I can get him back on. Otherwise, I'll just pull him in to share this phone again. Okay, 1 second.
Okay.
Just
sure.
say something. Keep going.
Sure. Marsha, I'll put Marsha on for a minute. She'll go ahead. Just for a few minutes, honey, while she's getting Sasha back.
Okay, that Ralph's story goes on to say that they actually, Otis Carr called the three down for debriefing, and they all said, "Oh, we didn't go anyplace, did we?" And Otis said, "Yes, if you'll just look in your pockets, bring everything in your pockets out to the desk." And they had sticks and stones and grass and they were actually dressed in white or beige jumpsuits, and they had definitely been cleaned and nothing in their pockets when they left on the teleportation. So it was quite interesting, and none of the three remembered going down until later. And if you want to continue.
Yeah, that's what Dr. wanted me to explain.
Okay, we're all back.
Okay. Well, I'll just reiterate what Marsha said. That we got down to the debriefing and said, well, we didn't go anywhere, did we? And he said, well, it makes you think so. And we said, well, I know I didn't move from my chair. I absolutely know that. I mean, just not think it, I know it. And so did the other engineers. And he said, well, fine. Well, why don't you guys empty your pockets? And when we did, we had sticks and stones and grass and everything else putting on his desk. And he said, well, you didn't go anywhere. Where did that come from? And we had no idea because, we were sealed into the craft when we left, and nobody got on board. And he said, well, that's the difference between your conscious mind and your subconscious mind, or your super conscious mind, if you will. I mean, those are just labels, but it means that we are confined to a third dimensional operation as far as the brain is concerned, or as far as the computer is concerned that operates a third dimensional body. And so it's going to deny and call you crazy and everything else. But you have to go beyond that. You have to open your mind, not your brain. You have to open your mind, and that's, you guys traveled with your mind. The distance linearly from A to B could be 1 billion miles, but the distance in the ethers, where there is no time and space only exist as we create them. And when you go into
between mind and brain, just so I can understand.
What'd you
What's
say?
the difference between mind and brain?
The mind is multidimensional. It's when we go to sleep at night and we go into multidimensional dreams, if you will, or places, if you will, or things. It has no limits. And that's who we are. We're energy beings. We're actually light. We're made out of protons. We're actually light beings inside a physical vessel, a water vessel actually, that keeps us grounded here in a third dimensional reality in a box. And we only here can use 5 senses. We say, oh, well, I see this. Well, what we're seeing is not really what we see at all. And even in your optics definitions, you're seeing things upside down and backwards compared to what it is. And then you're interpreting it and giving it a label. But it's really like the table I'm touching now. I can say yes and define it as a table, and it is a reality, but not the only reality of what's here. Because actually, this is a massive being held together with a thought pattern, if you will, or a feeling, if you will, and making it into the opening, I should say, opening to the multidimensional way of looking at it. It's energy, and it could be a car, it could be a garage, or it could be anything I wanted it to be. And that's what we are. We're creative beings, but we're creating it in what's called nanoseconds, a billionth of a second. So our brain can't comprehend that. It doesn't see that. It's too fast. So everything, even the cup of coffee that I'm touching now, 1 second ago, it's not the same thing, because it's recreated itself 1,000 times or more between that and now. Because the only thing we can live in is the now. There is no really actual past, and there is no actual future. It's just the moment that we live in right now. So anyhow, getting back to Carr.
It's really hard to grasp is the concept of living in the now, and everything is now. And the whole time thing is so mind-boggling for most people. They just can't get their heads around it.
But it's quite simple, and that's what our job has been for quite a while, is waking people up and telling, just telling them you're not who you think you are. You are who you really are, and that is magnificent. You're unlimited. You're an unlimited being, and you have unlimited potential. And they say, no, I'm just a carpenter, and I'm just not worth much. And you have to wake those people up to tell them who they really are, because each one of us is a jewel. We have a difference to share with each other on a higher level that is magnificent. It's just and unless sharing on a higher level our essence of who and what we are, we're going to be stuck in this hole forever. So Marsha and I are now showing people how to ascend out of this place that we think, and it's all illusion. It truly is illusion. I mean, I know that's a label that I put on it, but it's operating in a linear third dimensional plane of existence.
But, Ralph, is it possible to give us a little meditation that will help us move beyond our brains, just briefly, at least, to get an experience of what you're speaking of?
Well, I can give you maybe a little demonstration. Let me think. Here's a simple one, and I know you'll say, well, that's too obvious, but and go into a meditative state for a moment and just think twice about what I'm saying. I think you'll experience something different, and that is, let me think. Wherever you're at, put your hand. Wait a minute. Let's see.
It's from the heart.
How am I going to? Well, okay. Put your arm straight out in front of you. Well, I'll just try. Mm-hmm. I've never done this before, so I don't know. I'm starting from scratch. Mm-hmm. And then say to yourself, one way or another, it doesn't matter how you say it, that you can't pull it back. You can't pull it back. And then, because you've given the command to your subconscious, it will obey what you're saying. You're going to have a very hard time to pull that hand back, because you've already canceled it by your own definition, your own creation. You've created it. And so when you try to pull your hand back after you said you can't, you're going contrary to your guidance system, which is your intuition or your subconscious. And so you're going to have a hard time pulling your hand back until you counter that with, oh, yes, I can, and then you can pull it right back. And you'll notice in your strength, and it's like, what do they do in muscle testing? What do they call it? Kinesiology. It's the same thing. See, we are the programmers of our own reality. We used to say, well, I'm programmed by media and I'm programmed by this and that. Yeah, that programming. And we forget to reprogram ourselves. So when they say, you can't do this, then we say, oh, I guess I can't because they told me so. But then you counter that with, yes, I can, then you can do anything. And that's the difference between a third-dimensional reality and a multi-dimensional reality. We're magnificent multi-dimensional beings, and we have the power to do anything and go anywhere we want, and we do it all the time, but our conscious brain, shuts that down and says, no, you're here in the third dimension. You didn't go to Jupiter last night. You stayed here, because it's saying you can't. And what you have to do to feel the difference, and at first you just have to feel the difference by changing your vocabulary, word sculpturing, taking the word you say, and it's just a matter of the difference between can and can't. That's just a simple explanation, but when it comes to doing anything at all, you can do the same thing by not accepting anything less than who you know you are, not who you think you are, because who you think you are will run you crazy. It'll say, no, you don't look good today. You're dragging, and it'll drive you crazy. But you have to deal with yourself because you're living in two different worlds. You're living in a spiritual world and you're living in a human world. So you have to pacify the human world by saying, yeah, I hear you. And then go on with your own world, say, no, I'm a beautiful being just having a wonderful time. And that's what you have to have because you're the creator.
I love it.
Wow.
Did that do any good or not? I don't know. Did you feel
buying the cant is a way. Buying the cant is a way of accepting your helplessness and not taking responsibility.
Yeah. You got it. That's exactly it. Not taking responsibility.
I think it's time for all of us, and I know it's time for all of us to realize, to remember who we were created to be, which is unlimited spiritual beings, unlimited. And as far as we are able to do everything that the mind can conceive, man can achieve. And it's time for us to take our power back and actually stop
just reprogram ourselves to knowing who and what we are. And there's a difference between knowing and thinking. Like a belief system can be changed. That's what we live in, a belief system which has a lot of fear in it. And you have a science, you have the science of medicine, the science of engineering. You have a belief system. Well, I believe this is right. Oh, I believe this is wrong. And that doesn't go anywhere because it vacillates back and forth in a belief system. And that's what your brain operates in. It's kind of like I think they call it the monkey brain or something. It drives you crazy. But
from the moment we're born, we're being programmed, and we keep continually taking in programming by what we listen to, what we watch, what we, the television programs, the movies we watch, the music we listen to. There's constant programming and reaffirming this limited matrix and the term, the reality that it's creating, the co-creation of reality. And then it's a self-policing society, so if you try to go past it, they shame and blame you, right? And so what you're saying is absolutely rings true to me, and I'm just wondering how we can take that from this local level here on the radio show to a global level. That's how we make a better world for everybody.
Yes, and it's so wonderful that you guys are doing what you're doing.
You guys are broadening our field. We're just stuck here in our little old place, our little hobbit house here in the middle of the woods in Paradise, California. But you are extending our feelings and our intuition and our experiences to a vaster audience, which will pick up on some of it, and not what we say, but within themselves. They'll say, "Wait a minute, I thought of that. I felt that." And so
if we stop believing in the elite and the J.P. Morgan that have taken the place of J.P. Morgan, do they cease to exist? Do they have their authority?
What's going on? Are you too close to me, or
what?
There's a lot of feedback coming whenever you're speaking. Can you close the door coming to the office? Because we're getting feedback. I'm way in the office and you're way in the living room, but you're still getting feedback. Can you just close the door? I'll try talking again. Is
that better?
Try it again now.
Oh yeah, okay. Well, we're but the difference between operating from your intuition, that's your guidance system. That's guardian angels or whatever you want to call it. That your intuition is your guidance system. And when you start trusting your intuition, that's your feelings, over your thoughts. Your thoughts will say one thing, and your feelings will give you another feeling. And even though the thoughts are in conjunction with maybe many other thoughts in the external world saying, well, you've got to do this, Ralph, because, and you're on protocol, but your feelings say, no, don't do it. Well, then you have a choice. And if you'll learn from experience that the external choice to do what they say is not as comfortable as if you just say, nope, not now. I'm going to go rest or something, and go with your feelings, because your feelings are the reality of who you are. Mm-hmm. Feelings are tied into your heart muscles and your heart resonance. There's actually electrical currents between the two, and that goes on up to your pineal gland, which is in the center of your cranium, you have a gland that's not been operative for quite some time. That's called the third eye in India or whatever, East India or somewhere. But that's where you realize, look at things with your real eyes, not your physical eyes, because you can't see much with the physical eyes. But you realize is your imagination. And as you imagine, you're creating. And as you're creating, then you're manifesting. And your creations will come back to you over and over again, manifesting for quite some time. And it's so beautiful because we never have to go out and look for anything. We just create an intention. And that's another thing, the word sculpturing. Do away with the words like want and hope and trying. Those are all antiquated words that belong to another dimension that we're passing through, and we've got to get on with it. And the new words are like intention and faith, and
knowingness.
Knowing.
Know.
See, nobody can tell me when I'm hungry. Nobody can tell me I'm not hungry. I mean, I don't care what belief system they want to lay on me. When I'm hungry, I'm hungry. When I'm sleepy, I'm sleepy. That's a knowingness that I have. When I have to use it, that's a big one. But I know it. It goes beyond the belief system.
Well, and it's interesting. Time ago, Heidegger was talking about intentionality, how the observer creates the observed. The subjective and objective are in intentional relationship.
Yeah.
So you were talking about one of the things that I'm working with is experiencers. These are contactees, and they know that they've had experiences. Yet when they go out and explain that, with extraterrestrials, but when they try to explain that with the normal world, they get shamed and ridiculed. But they have this knowingness. So you're saying just stay with what you know, because you know when you're hungry. You know what you've had is real. There's a sense, there's an emotion, there's a feeling around it. Am I getting correctly what you're intending by this knowingness instead of using other words like trying?
Yeah, they're all limited words. They're like the word can, C-A-N. But the minute you put not in there, then you've tied a knot in the word can. You tied a big knot in it, and you can't operate beyond that knot because your guidance system won't let you. You already said, well, I can't. So it says, okay, you can't. When you can, let me know, and I'll come back. So
trying is lying in advance.
Huh?
Trying is lying in advance.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. Write that down. That's a good one. But it's true. Manifesting is just a matter of using your imagination in conjunction with humility and appreciation. You have to appreciate the love and the wisdom and the power that you have, and that we are in a collective consciousness. We identify ourselves as Ralph and Marsha. We belong to a collective body of consciousness. And like the Beatles brought up in their song, I think it was the Walrus, I am you and you am I, or whatever it was, we're all one. And that we share with each other, outside the idea of the ego, we share with each other that love and intelligence when we're not afraid to. But fear comes because we believe in fear, and fear doesn't really exist till we think about it, and then it exists. It's just
Ralph, how can we get to the heart of the successors to J.P. Morgan, the people that took your the spacecraft away? How can we reach the people that don't want us to have free energy and be one with them?
Well, it's happening.
Within ourselves.
It's happening right now, and as I said it, I could never even come close to that, saying it any better than Gandhi when he said, if you want to change the external world, you've got to change the internal one. And that's by saying I can all the time, or I am that I am all the time. Not who you think you are, not who they tell you are, but who you really are. You're a magnificent immortal being, and you always have the energy. Has never been in our science. It can't be created or destroyed. That means energy goes on forever. And basically, we are just energy fields. We are living in an eternity, and we think we're living in a little time slot of the Earth with 100 years or what. And that's just a drop in the bucket. That's nothing. But we've been told that, and we've been, not raised our consciousness any higher than accepting it. So that's what I believe. Oh well, I'm going to live and I'm going to die, and that's it. And then that's just an unrewarding, unjoyful way of living.
That's again the way we've all been programmed from the beginningness, and if you think about it, we are energy beings, and we are going to live that nothing can be changed. Energy cannot be, created or destroyed. So if we really know that, that's how we're going to change the JP Morgans, by knowing our powerful, our who we are, who we actually are, and by going out to the many listeners on your show. And if each one of us say we are that we are, and we take that power back, we are changing the JP Morgans. We won't see a great big flash in the air. Slowly, as we all change our consciousness to be the I am that we are.
If I can extrapolate, do we each have a JP Morgan within us, a part of us that's greedy and holding us back? That's the part we have to come to grips with.
Now you're getting that's the core of the matter right there. It's all us. There is nobody out. There are no enemies. We think there are, and that's why we create them, because we think there's an enemy. The only thing that is contrary is ourselves dealing with ourselves, which is we create our own adversaries and we bring them to us in way, shape, or form, one way or another. But we're all doing it to ourselves. And when we stop for a moment and realize who we really are, we become very, very careful in what we say, even to ourselves or even to our friends, because we're creating it all the time. And so you have to be really careful about reality, because it comes up instantly.
Right, our thoughts are deep.
Huh?
Our thoughts are deep, and we're constantly creating our reality. And if we don't like what we're creating, change the program, change the channel, change your thoughts, acknowledge your thoughts, thank it for coming up, and let it go, and put in positive affirmations. Like you said, switch it from trying this line to.
I guess the thing for me is to look into, say, if there's a greedy J.P. Morgan part of me, what does that part really need that's in the here and now? And it might be attention or affection rather than this other stuff.
Well, that gets it down to the simple formula. There's only two things: either you're looking for love or you have love, and and we call it money, we call it fame, we call it power, whatever it is, but it's all love. There's nothing but love. And when you realize that, now that thinking about it and saying it, it sounds, oh well, that's just a bunch of words. But no, when you take it to heart and you run it through your system, through your filters, and you realize, oh my God, love is everything, then all I have to do is use love to change everything. Then you start looking at the greediness that we might have, like, oh gosh, that guy's got a bigger piece of pie than I got. I'd really like to have that piece of pie. We've learned from experience that giving him his pie is the greatest thing you can do, because you give him that piece of pie and he's going to give you 10 pies back somewhere along the line. I mean, you have to learn that principle of the law of attraction, or whatever it's called, that it's better to give. And like Marsha shared with me a long time ago, if a robber comes into her house and when a robber comes into your house,
you give him what he wants and ask him, is there anything else that you need that I have? and you give him and you give him and you give him, and it's probably going to shock them so much they'll probably run.
And that's what you do with your adversaries. That's what you do with your adversaries. Love them because you love them to death because they can't live in love. Their greed, their power structure, and everything has to dissolve.
It's right in.
Yeah, I think in international relations, one of the ways to really start the ball rolling is to just give without any some kind of unilateral gifting.
Yeah.
For example, the Israelis could give Jerusalem to the international world instead of trying to control it. Just without demanding reciprocity, just give.
Because remember, we're all one.
Yeah, and we're giving to ourselves, really.
So if we can really think about that, and we can think in our own personal life, not so much in the war situation or anything else, but in our own personal life, if we can, somebody wants something that you have, and you don't, why should I give it to him? Because he is me. I am him. And then you're going to see it all dissolve in a different way.
And you'll find a moment or two later, or maybe the next, oh God, I'm glad I gave that one away, because something greater comes into your life at that moment. It
really has
really
been
beautiful.
Working wonderfully, and not just in words, but we're actually doing this, and you guys are doing it too.
Yeah, you guys are doing it.
And
you're doing the same thing in a different way.
We just have to recognize what's going on in our life and how our light is shining and helping other people. It's wonderful.
It's a ripple with our little ripples, and you're getting greater ripples, and greater ripples will happen. And now people, I mean, when I was in this 50 years ago, if you mentioned anything that I'm talking about now, boy, you'd be locked up and the keys would be thrown away, or you'd be, shut down. But now people are saying, well, maybe there is more to this than I thought. And there is more than you think. It's more in the knowingness. You know that you are energy, and energy goes on forever. We live in an eternal life. It's not just a singular little drop in the bucket. But we're in the words, here's something for your audience. This guy just came on the scene for us because as you evolve internally, things change instantly. And this guy I haven't heard of him before. His name is Matt, M-A-T-T. Kahn. K, how you spell it?
K-A-H-N.
Say that again, please. M-A-T-T, and then what's the last name?
K-A-H-N.
K-A-H-N. Or if you can't remember that, he has a website called True Divine Nature, TrueDivineNature.com, and he is making our job so much easier, because we used to have to go out and try and wake people up. Now he's doing it, and others like him are doing it, and it's so much easier. Just like you guys are doing.
It's such
thank you. I found him. I found Matt and J-A-H-M.
Yes.
Okay, I'll look at their.
Yeah.
It's a Facebook and a video. So tell us what Matt and John are doing.
Huh?
What are Matt and John doing? That's waking everybody up.
Oh, Matt Carr.
Oh, Matt Carr? It's a different thing. I'm pulling out the wrong thing then.
Just one person.
Con, Janet. Con. Like Con.
He's not giving wake-up calls on the third dimension anymore. He's coming from a greater space, and he has dissolved himself, like Marsha and I have, and dissolved our so-called ego, and just become one of the many, and we're the many of the one. And so he's coming from a different space, but he's reaching people with feelings instead of just words, which are good, and he's using good words and he knows how to use them, but you're beginning to feel, oh yeah, you begin to feel what he's saying, and he's changing everything. He's starting to change. He's doing our work that we very expedient, because he's reaching a larger audience. But he's good. He's very good. I'm just glad to mention.
Well, you'll have to send me a link, because I'm not finding it, but I'll put that up on my website page for this show as
Yeah.
You know, something that they can look, that our listeners can look at.
He's got
and find.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
He's got what?
He's got hundreds of videos too.
Okay.
Up overnight. I mean, and he's got one. It's an interview by a station in Seattle, Washington, interviewing him. He tells about his childhood. When he came out, when he first was born, he had this unusual gift. And then when he was 6 and when he was 8, and he tells his whole life and how he's doing what he's doing now. He's just here to help humanity. It's very interesting to listen. It's really.
Well, I think a lot of us are here to help humanity and waking up to our soul's mission, you know, beyond our 3D reality, and who are we as eternal beings, and uncovering our mission that we have for ourselves, and our agreement behind why we came down to three-dimensional physicality, to the earth plane in the first place. And so that's what I'm encouraging. You can do it through, you know, therapy and meditation and other ways of getting in touch with your soul, especially meditation, like you were talking about meditation.
Right.
But it really works. People go, well, nothing happened right that second, but if you just do it as a practice, you start going past this 3D reality to existence beyond and the continuum, and you start getting, oh, here's who I am. You invite your subconscious to reveal itself, and your higher consciousness to come in here and connect with your ego self. That's how I symbol it.
Well, you know, I think when you transcend your 3D reality, you don't lose it. It just becomes encapsulated in the larger reality as one of your minor tools.
Yeah, delightfully so, because you become whatever and whenever the opportunity presents itself. You know, I found myself feeling, oh my gosh, let's see, what's his name? Merlin, the magician, and I found oh my gosh, King Arthur, and there's some others, Mark Twain, you know. But I mean, I find myself, oh my gosh, this is me talking, but it sounds, you know, the demeanor is that of not just a part of me. I mean, it just becomes very good to listen to. I'm listening to myself. I know it sounds crazy, but it's true.
It's like when people say it's channeling or God speaking through or whatever, but there's a higher part of us that comes through and teaches us along with teaching other people or awakening us. I keep thinking.
Yeah, and the way you get there is giving up your own identity. Just don't even, you know, because like me of myself can't do a dang thing without you guys collectively helping me, like you guys are doing right now. I'm being fostered and invited and shared with information that I couldn't do by myself. I'd be tongue-tied and nervous and everything else. But you give up self for a greater self, which is all of us. We are all one, and one is all us, and it's really great. And the experiment that you might introduce to your speakers is the use of imagination. I was saying before, the old paradigm was there was nothing faster than the speed of light. But right now, I want you to think of Hawaii, with white sands and aquamarine water and palm trees. So you're there. You're already there. Because we're already everywhere. Energy's everywhere, and we're all a part of the same energy field. It goes on forever. So instantly, beyond the speed of light, because light's just now getting there probably, we've already experienced that. Now, to teleport there is nothing but another stage of using your imagination, using your stillness, if you will, getting your brain quiet. Don't let it dictate to you, and just use your meditation. And pretty soon you wake up and you find yourself, and Marsha and I have done this, we find ourselves in a different spot. So we weren't here a little while ago, were we? It doesn't matter, because you build in your own past of how you got there. And to where you're going. It's extraordinary, but it works, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. It's fun to do. It's very fun.
We were going on a road trip, and we had my daughter with me, and the girls, and it was along back roads. We loved to go in the back roads, and we were the girls had to use the restroom, and I said, "Oh my gosh, I don't know what we're going to find out here." And then I went into my intuition. I went quiet for a minute, and I said, "Universe, I need some help." And it came up another 300 yards and turned left, and sitting on the corner with this beautiful
brilliant yellow,
painted like a custom car outhouse with a big grass entranceway to it, and everything was clean and neat, and birds were in the trees, and there was a creek going by, and a bird. I put the window down. A bird landed on the window and looked in the car, and I was talking to the bird while the girls were using the restroom.
That's very magical. You created this magical scenario.
But here's the punchline. When we came back, we went over to Grass Valley to give a talk, and when we came back, which was the same day, we came back on the same road, the same turn, and there was nothing there. Nothing.
Nothing.
Actually, there were whippoorwill, the tree.
Weeping
willow. The grass wasn't there. The creek was still there.
Yeah.
But the weeping willow, that was all. There was nothing else. I mean, we were so amazed, and
so we chalked it up to nature. Said, "Well, thanks, Mother Nature, or universe." And you create and plan your life that way. It has to happen because you're the creator.
And we keep getting amazed. And
we're just as amazed as anybody.
These things are so normal. We can do them all the time.
They become a normal operation.
And so it can happen to all of us, and probably is happening, but
we just don't realize it. People don't recognize it.
That's the other thing, is to wake up and recognize what's happening in your life. Really, really see beyond your eyes. See what's happening. Feel what's happening.
Feel it.
Yeah.
So the implication is that everything in existence is they created everything in existence by thinking it's there.
Wow, I can hardly hear you, Sasha. Say that again.
You've created everything in your existence by thinking that it's there, that there isn't it, that's out of you.
Yeah.
Right. So when you become aware of it, when you have these magical out-of-phase type things that you later come back and prove didn't happen to yourself or whatever you were just saying about that. But what we're actually all doing is we have 7.5 different multiverses, and every once in a while we have a consensus reality, and we agree that this is what's quote-unquote real. But it's all continually being invented. And that's why the Illuminati keep trying to get us to focus on their reality, so that becomes the primary operating system for all of humanity. But we can just say no.
Yes, it's time for us to do that. Don't accept that.
It's like morphing with Play-Doh. You just create a little bit, and you create an intention, and pretty soon it shows up just exactly, or even better than you imagined it. It's absolutely, it's the only way to go. It really is.
If we can really, really, really believe that we're the masters that we've been looking for.
Not believe.
Okay? No. That we're the masters we've been looking for. Not believe, because like Ralph says, belief can be changed.
Yeah.
But know that we are those masters that we look up to, that we say, oh, wow, I would love to be in their, in their essence.
Hello, just look in the mirror. That's who you are. We all create our own version, our own dramas, our own traumas, whatever we want. We're the creators, and it's fun. It's absolutely adorably fun, and we don't have to do a thing. It all comes to us. We don't have to go anywhere.
Wow.
But do it just to recognize, because you're already doing it, Janet. Just,
you guys are doing it the same as us. All we're doing is
blah-blahing about it.
Blah-blahing your neurons, and they're firing, and then you're firing our neurons, and we're all enjoying a good company.
That's a really
so ultimately, we can say we take responsibility for the way we feel because we create the experience that we take real.
Skype is really going morbidly. I don't know, Sean, if there's anything you can do. But we're on the last about 15 minutes of this show. Okay. So we're all creating this these multiverses, and they're magical, and our current reality, the current operating system is always shooting us and saying no and don't and that's not real, and policing us and putting us into their box that they're trying to create.
Yeah,
so what do you recommend for the people out there that are just listening to this concept, and how can they go from the should programming type society that they were raised in to this, I think we might be doing this because we've lived a long time now, and we're getting it. We're finding out, this is what it really is. Mm-hmm. What can you recommend to our listeners out there that they can start grasping this sooner?
To be consciously aware of everything they say and do. I mean, even to move your mouse from one place to another. Be consciously aware of everything. At first, it's painstaking at first because you got to think, I got to remember. You don't really have to do anything. But if you become conscious, then it takes on by itself. It starts multiplying. And the only math in the universe is multiplication. There is nothing else but multiplication. But it will multiply. And then it becomes second nature to you. And it becomes a part of you. And you don't have to do anything anymore.
Watch your words. Words are things, or thoughts are things. So watch. If you don't want to create what you're thinking, then remove that thought. Just say, no, it's not real. Remove that.
And if you want to meet extraterrestrials, just invite them. And you will meet them in maybe the next minute, maybe the next day. You'll run into someone and you will know inside. The feelings are there. And it may be just for a glance or a moment, or it might be for a conversation. And they won't mention anything about being who know any more than we do when they're exercising their powers in the third dimension. It's only in the multi-dimension that they know what they're doing, in a sense. I mean, that's kind of hard to explain, isn't it? I didn't explain that very well. But,
no, I think you did.
Okay. But
everyone knows everything, but they pretend they don't.
Yeah.
Well, they don't. We don't know we know everything, and we've got to know that and accept that we know that.
It's knowingness. It's the knowingness, because pretending is one of the greatest tools we have. Put it in your toolbox, because you pre-intend on doing something. You pretend, and that's how Merlin comes in and Nimue into our lives. We pretend, and then she'll be cooking, and all of a sudden I feel this, oh my gosh, my voice changes and everything, and we just have a ball. She could Merlin and Nimue for half an hour or whatever. I mean, it's playing at life. It's playing and having fun. That they say, well, that's ridiculous and that's nonsense. No, that's life. It's really, really having fun. It's not as the doldrum that it's led to be, that we think of. And then you come to the point of realizing which we have, that everything without exception is good. It's all goodness. Everything is good. And that planet Earth can be looked at not as a fighting warrior planet or anything. It's an angel academy, as Matt Helm calls it. Matt Kahn calls it. We're here to gain our wings, and we're going through this schoolroom of hard knocks to learn how to get through it, not resist it, because that doesn't do any good. Pressure creates resistance. Not accepting it, because we're not and want to be held under restrictions forever. But going through it means, okay, fear, I see you're here. What do you got to show me? And it'll show you, well, you're 2 inches from a cliff. You better back off. Okay, thanks. I don't need you anymore. You deal with it. You don't fight it or you don't accept it, but you deal with it and you get through it. It's just going through life, not fighting it, not accepting it as it seems to be. And it's fun. Really fun.
It's fun.
We're going to talk next year at this year. In Laughlin, Nevada at the UFO conference. There's a big conference.
Oh, cool.
We'll be there.
Yes, I saw you were on for this coming year, so we'll be there.
Oh,
yeah, we'll be there for sure.
Yeah, get some hugs in.
Wonderful to meet you guys face to face.
It'll be great.
And then later we're planned. It hasn't gelled yet, but we're going to go back to the Netherlands. They want us to come back over there, and then on to Bosnia. The guy that found the pyramid has invited me to come over and speak and talk over there. And then we're going on to, what is it? Slovenia. Yeah. Yeah, a little country, Slovenia, because they want us to talk over there. So we're
excellent.
It's not as active as it used to be, and we're happy for that because we can get our homework done now. We got things, that we like to do with our community here. We've got a wonderful community in Paradise. They're really spiritually oriented here. I mean, they care first, and then they don't.
That's what you find over in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a strong spiritual community here too.
Heard that.
It's fun living in a community like that.
It's so wonderful. It is a beautiful way to live, to express in the third dimension.
Keeps our energies high, and we read Goldsmith, Joel Goldsmith, a lot. He's one of our top readers of books that we like, and what's the other one? Seed of the Soul, Zukov.
Gary Zukov.
Yeah, Gary Zukov.
Yeah, another one. And oh gosh, and then we have a little saying that we use, and it this is for couples, married couples especially, when they get on each other's nerves after a while. If they would start.
Oh no, we never do that.
No, we don't either.
But just in case, what do we do?
I'll send it to you guys in print so you'll have it. It's a saying of just get. Well, wait a minute. I got it right here. I can read it to you.
Okay, read it to us.
And then I'll send it to you too.
Excellent.
The web link for. Okay. I know we don't have much time, but okay, here it is.
Okay.
They've got a website. It's called Happiness is Our Life. That's .com.
Happiness is Our Life.
HappinessIsOurLife.com. And here's what it says. Thousands of reasons. That's the name of the topic. Thousands of reasons. If every morning you can find a reason to say, yes, it's going to be a beautiful day, and every day you find a reason to say, yes, it is a beautiful day, and I say, yes, it was a beautiful day, then one day you look back and easily say, yes, it was a beautiful life, because you accepted it.
So if we are kind of getting grumpy, with one another, the other one says it's a beautiful day, and it just kind of snaps you right back into it.
Snaps us right back. We don't.
Yeah. I have everything I need to enjoy my here and now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Right.
And that's true, and that's such a blessing, isn't it? We just really feel right. That's the truth of our being.
Yeah.
We have everything right here and right now to enjoy today and the rest of our life.
There's nothing as beautiful as truth. Truth never changes. It always is. But everything else around it, like the monkey brain, keeps trying to rearrange it and put different labels on things, but the truth is we're all love, and we just have to enjoy it. That's about it.
Oh.
I agree.
It's
so when you're perceiving it as negative, you just overwrite it with, and that's kind of the message of American Beauty. I don't know if you've seen the movie. The character, the major character, got his head blown off, and he's floating out of his body, and he says, you know, he loved it all, even to the end, and what he would do for just one more day. And I guess that's what we can do at the end of it, just love and appreciate the divine perfection of everything that happens in our lives, even though in the moment we may perceive it as negative. It's actually perfect in the divine plan, which is what your higher self or oversoul is aware of, and your ego might just be going, what's going on? Why is that happening?
Well, the things that upset you are your challenges, and they give you direction.
Yes, they do. And your challenges can come in many strange ways, by way of an adversary or a 10-ton truck, or they come in different sizes and different ways, and you have to be willing to accept it. Here comes another one, and be willing to go through it, not fight or flight anymore. That's the old paradigm, but to go through it the best way you can, and if you use love, like, well, here I go, and you find the door's open for you. You don't have to do a thing.
It's like a giant wave coming towards you, and if you just tuck and dive into it, it'll go right over your head. You're going through it rather than going, oh no, wave, and trying to resist it, and then it pounds you down to the ground.
That's a perfect description. Just dive right through it. Yeah. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, we see it over here all the time in the ocean over here. Dive right through it.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I've watched some of you surfers over there, man. You guys are, to me, it's nuts, man. I can't see myself even getting close to those kind of waves. And those guys go through them all day long, Just
wow. So we have 3 more minutes before the end of this show. What would you like to cover?
Did say hello to? I want you to meet the angel of the mountain up here.
Well, that's these folks. Hello, dear ones. It's been nice listening to you, and I know you live from your heart, and that's wonderful. And I appreciate the work you're doing. Nice hearing your voice.
Thank you.
So,
thank you. Nice.
Yeah, I think you two have really uplifted us and our audience too. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you guys for listening, and thank you for the opportunity.
And thank you for sharing with us too. You guys are doing such wonderful works, and it's such a joy. It's like we're meeting our soul family, and we feel like you are part of our soul family.
Yeah.
We're coming together.
Oh yes, I've been following you guys too, and I can't wait to finally meet you at the that's the Paula Harris's event in Laughlin. I don't have the date, but we're going to the UFO Congress next week, and there's 2,000 to 3,000 people of our big global UFO community, and that, talk about a high, that is really high. We all get together, and each year we just keep up-leveling each other, going higher and higher. Yeah. Okay, we have 1 more minute. Do you want to tell everybody how they can reach you? One more time. You can reach us
on our email. It's Vortex, spelled with a V for Victor in small case, VORTEXXX, 3 X's, followed by the number 3 at AOL.com, or through our website, through our webmaster, and on our website, which is www.Blue Star Enterprise, and Enterprise is spelled with an S, ENTERPRISE.com.
Those are 2 of the best ways to get.
Those are the best ways. Our phones are always busy and tied up with local stuff and stuff. But it's not really a good. We never have.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the best way.
Well, that's it. That was perfect timing. Thank you so much, Ralph and Marsha, and much love and blessings. Can't wait to meet you this year. Yay, we're finally going to meet. Thank you, listeners, for joining us today. We've had a great time. I hope you did too.
Aloha and namaste. Hear me, but thanks, Sean, for your help.